Hi, salutations. It's been a while, hasn't it? I did in fact find my account password, so you guys get a video. Engineer is a great supportive class that provides mobility, healing, and area denial for his team, and is often the unspoken hero of any casual team's success. The weapons he has allow him to switch between defense and offense and give him many workarounds to his counters, with some being complete garbage and others being very unfun to play against. So let's see how TC2 handles these weapons to make them better. I don't know how to do an intro. Epic rap battles of history, engine versus melancholy.
Saddle up, boys.
Now I've seen everything.
Ever get hit by a wrench before?
Heck yeah!
Ah!
Hell, that was easy.
Our first weapon is going to be the Widowmaker, which has the same name in TC2. The Widowmaker in TF2 is pretty much as good as an aggressive shotgun you're going to get. Instead of using ammo the traditional way, the Widowmaker's ammo comes directly from your metal reserve. It uses 30 metal per shot, but you gain metal based on how much damage you deal. It also deals 10% more damage to your sentry's target. Whatever. The Widowmaker is a great aggressive option that encourages hitting shots, but punishes you for missing or misusing your metal. In TC2, the Widowmaker replaces the 10% increased sentry target damage with 50% more ramp-up damage, meaning you deal around 11 damage at close range instead of the usual 9. It also adds a 20% slower firing speed, taking 3/4 of a second to fire your next shot. To be honest, slower firing speed screws with your muscle memory pretty bad and also gives more time for your opponent to damage you. The increased ramp up is okay, but the damage specials are all pretty similar outside of Soldier and Heavy, who are now harder to fight with the slower firing speed. Objectively speaking, it's fine, but I'm not a huge fan of these changes. It makes the weapon feel way clunkier. Next up is the Pomson 6000, renamed the Einsteinium in TC2. The Pomson is notorious for being a complete joke of a weapon. It has a clip size of 4 with infinite reserve ammo, a 30% slower firing speed, and fires a slow-ass projectile instead of pellets. These projectiles deal only 20% damage to buildings, cannot be air blasted, and also drain up to 20% cloak and 10% uber. It's also worth mentioning that the Pomson has a ramp-up value of 20% instead of the usual 50%, meaning the stock shotgun's 90 damage meat shot is now closer to 70 damage on the Pomson. The main thing here is that the projectiles are so slow you can't hit anything with it, and even if you do connect shots, they deal pretty minimal damage. It's because of this that the Pomson is seen as a garbage weapon. Within TC2, the Einsteinium changes quite a bit. It replaces the projectile with a single hit scan pellet that deals 42 damage, has 50% more fall off, inflicts 5 seconds of afterburn, and also applies a healing debuff that has its duration and effects scaled based on distance. These stats encourage more of a long-range playstyle that relies on accuracy and afterburn to finish off enemies, since the clip size and lower damage aren't helping it much at closer ranges. I don't find this particularly fun to play with or against, but it does its job well, so yeah, I say this is a decent rework. Third and finally is the Frontier Justice, renamed the Avenger in TC2. The Frontier Justice is pretty simple. You gain 2 crits for a sentry kill or 1 for an assist when your sentry is destroyed. In return, you only have 3 shots. You can place your sentry defensively or offensively and then destroy it, trading sustainability for huge burst damage. It's a very versatile weapon that encourages taking risks. In TC2, the Avenger adds a 20% accuracy bonus but reduces your primary reserve ammo to 16. This is mostly a quality of life buff, because as Engineer you're very rarely going to run out of primary reserve ammo, with how much ammo packs you're picking up, but the accuracy bonus lets you get a little more damage from further away. It's a pretty nice, albeit unneeded bonus. Engineer only has 3 secondaries in TF2, and only 1 was changed moving to TC2, so let's talk about the Wrangler, same name in TC2. In TF2, the Wrangler is notorious for being one of Engineer's most unfun to fight against and overpowered weapons. The Wrangler allows you to take manual control of your sentry, which basically means that the sentry follows your aim while the Wrangler is out. While you're controlling your sentry, it fires 33% to 50% faster depending on what level it is. It also gains a shield that absorbs 66% of damage, but only absorbs 33% of all repairs. After putting the Wrangler away, the sentry enters around 3 seconds of deactivation, and the shield is still active for some reason. Hundreds of DPS at much longer ranges on something that could have nearly 700 effective health. Yeah, it's easy to see why this weapon is kinda busted. In TC2, the Wrangler retains the deactivation period, but completely gets rid of its shield, firing speed bonus, and the repair debuff. And in this state, the Wrangler is surprisingly fun to fight with and against. The engineer can't mindlessly put sentries in ridiculous spots and get away with it, because focus fire still gets rid of a sentry, but it also gives the engineer much more freedom in attacking specific enemies from further away. It's a defensive weapon that also allows for counterplay, and that's exactly what the Wrangler should have been. This is a pretty good change. Moving on to melees, our first one is the Gunslinger, under the same name in TC2. In TF2, the Gunslinger was pretty much made to be the aggressive engineer weapon. It replaces your upgradable sentry with a little one that deals less damage and has less health, but also costs less and builds faster. These sentries are great disposable tools to get in some extra damage and confuse your enemies, but the Gunslinger also offers 25 more max health and provides a crit on every third consecutive swing. 25 health lets you survive 2 melee hits, and the crit lets you 3-shot heavies who are eating food. Yeah, melee damage isn't a huge deal. In TC2, the Gunslinger still retains a lot of similarities, but changes the 25 extra max health to 10, and also replaces the crit swing with a 10% faster movement speed bonus. The 10% movement speed bonus is great for general traversal, and the health bonus still lets you survive 2 melee swings like usual. It's a small but alright change. Nearing the end, we have the Southern Hospitality, under the same name in TC2. In TF2, the Southern Hospitality is pretty cut and dry. You deal 5 seconds of bleed on hit, but you have a 20% fire damage vulnerability on wearer. I mean, 5 seconds of bleed lets you detect spies better. I'm not sure why you would want to use your wrench aggressively, but you're not going to be meeting any pyros either, especially if you have a sentry up, so realistically these are just 2-0 stats. In TC2, the Southern Hospitality still deals the bleed, but otherwise it's a completely new weapon. It repairs buildings 25% faster and deals 100% more damage to building, breaking sappers in one hit. On the downside, it fires 25% slower and lowers the construction hit speed boost by 25%. Yeah, that's the thing when your buildings are constructing and you can hit them to make them build faster. Like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't make that joke. I assume this is meant to be a heavily defensive wrench, but the stats are contradictory. It repairs faster, but also swings slower, meaning it actually repairs less than the stock wrench per second. This is coupled with the fact that you take much longer to set up due to the slower swing speed and slower construction rate. That makes it worse than the other wrenches for both setting up and keeping sentries alive, which is really funny to me. The only saving grace is the fact that it breaks sappers in one hit, but that's barely anything with how rare agents are and how even 2 or 3 swings from the other wrenches are enough. It's certainly one of the balance attempts of all time, not one that's making me want to use the weapon though. And finally we have the Jag, renamed the PDQ in TC2. And yes, I know the PDQ was originally a beta design for the Jag that was scrapped, that does not matter here. In TF2, the Jag boosts your construction speed by 30% and also swings 15% faster, letting you set up sentries much faster. On the downside, it deals 25% less damage, repairs 20% slower, and deals 33% less damage to buildings, which pretty much only affects sappers, requiring 3 swings instead of 2. It's probably one of the best wrenches for NG since it makes your setup time much faster and still repairs buildings quite well due to the swing speed. In TC2, the PDQ retains the same upsides of a faster construction speed and swing speed, but changes the 20% slower repair speed to 40% and changes the 33% less damage to buildings to 30%, which doesn't actually change how many swings it takes to break sappers. I guess the TC2 devs like even numbers. The slower repair speed hurts a bit, but the upsides still massively overshadow it. It's still an amazing wrench, and this change does let the stock wrench compete a bit more, so overall I don't mind the nerf. It's basically the same weapon anyways. That's it. Engineer doesn't have many weapons in the first place, and TC2 doesn't really change most of them in any major ways. I'm happy about the Wrangler nerf and Pomson buff, but everything else is just kinda whatever. He's still fun to play at least. So that wraps it up for today's video. Thank you to everyone who's still supporting me after my awful upload schedule. Bye.